Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Maller Grotner Plummer Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Maller Grotner Plummer Attorneys, understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis, on the web at lawngp.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. Smithville, fiber internet, security solutions, and voice in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Bunger and Robertson, attorneys at law since 1949, utilizing experience, knowledge, and resources to help individuals and families recover in personal injury matters. Information at lawbr.com. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. The Department of Homeland Security is planning on detaining undocumented immigrants at the Miami Correctional Facility near Peru, but some residents are wary of having Indiana's version of alligator Alcatraz so close.
I know that it's needed, but at the same time, I don't want it in my backyard.
President Trump has asked GOP-led states to redistrict their maps in hope of picking up seats to help them maintain a majority in the House.
We will not accept our state being cut and spliced and maneuvered for a wannabe king in Donald Trump.
7 of Indiana's 9 House districts are already solidly red. And a court date is set for October as the city of Bloomington pursues action against the owners of Crawford Apartments. We'll have these stories and more right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. The Department of Homeland Security plans to use 1,000 beds in an Indiana prison for undocumented immigrants. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem gave it the nickname Speedway Slammer, an Indiana version of Florida's alligator Alcatraz. Ethan Sandwise reports.
Staff played volleyball and blew bubbles with their families outside the Miami Correctional Facility Wednesday, the morning after Noem branded the facility with a colorful moniker. The Department of Corrections isn't expanding the prison, it's using existing open beds. The Miami prison has struggled with violence and low staffing. According to data from the state, the high-medium security prison has capacity for 3,100 inmates, but it's only using about 60% of those beds. There are 185 staff vacancies. In nearby Peru, Indiana, locals are divided on the state's plan.
I know that it's needed, but at the same time, I don't want it in my backyard.
I mean, they got to keep them somewhere. It's a secure facility, for sure.
Peru native Joseph Hiles says Miami has earned a reputation for chaos.
I don't think that's a place they should be putting immigrants, definitely. I don't think that's a place most of them prisoners should be. You know what I'm saying? They should be getting help, and that place ain't helping nobody.
States can enforce federal immigration law through an agreement with Homeland Security. Indiana is the second high-profile example of a large state-run facility holding undocumented immigrants after Florida's alligator Alcatraz. Inmates of the prison camp in the Everglades have gone on a hunger strike to protest conditions such as maggots in their food, flooding, and being held without charges. The Trump administration contends that harsh conditions will encourage people who enter the United States legally to voluntarily self-deport. Some Peru residents say they support Trump's tough approach to illegal immigration.
These are illegal immigrants, or whatever you want to call them. They broke the law to get here, and you break the law, there's consequences to it.
Hines' grandson is the child of an undocumented immigrant from Honduras. He says even if people break the rules, he thinks they shouldn't be punished for seeking a better life.
They ain't guilty really or nothing, so they really ain't supposed to be, I don't think they should be locking them up like that.
Kristi Noem's Speedway Slammer moniker for the Indiana facility has irked IndyCar officials who object to the government's references to a historic racetrack and its race cars. Homeland Security offended IndyCar's only Mexican driver, Pato O'Ward, for sharing an AI-generated image of a race car with his number and emblazoned with an ICE logo. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Ethan Sandwise.
Noam thanked Indiana Governor Mike Braun on X for the state's partnership. Braun announced the state would be housing ICE detainees in a press conference or in a press release last Friday. Vice President J.D. Vance met with Governor Mike Braun and Republican state legislative leaders Thursday to discuss redrawing Indiana's congressional district lines to benefit Republicans. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Brandon Smith reports Democrats rallied at the State House in response, railing against what they called a moral violation of democracy.
Braun confirmed that the vice president discussed redistricting during their meeting at the State House. Braun says he and state legislative leaders listened, but wouldn't say more than that. Democratic Congressman Andre Carson, one of the lawmakers who would be at risk under redistricting, called the fight a civil rights issue.
We will not accept our state being cut and spliced and maneuvered for a wannabe king in Donald Trump.
In statements, both State House Speaker Todd Houston and State Senate Leader Roderick Bray said they appreciated meeting with Vance, but neither statement made any commitments about redistricting.
Well, we're joined now by Indiana Public Broadcasting State House reporter Brandon Smith. Brandon, welcome. So there's this nationwide push for states to redistrict their congressional maps. Give us a little background. What started this?
Well, this started when President Donald Trump urged Texas lawmakers to redraw their state's congressional districts in order to boost Republicans' chances of picking up to 5 more seats there. That led to some democratically controlled states, including California, Illinois, and New York, considering something similar. And from there, the Trump administration is now pushing other GOP-controlled states like Indiana to engage.
So now in Texas, Democratic lawmakers fled the state to try to stifle the redistricting efforts. Could that happen in Indiana?
No, it absolutely cannot. So Republicans in Indiana have a supermajority in both the House and the Senate, and that means Republicans can conduct their business, pass legislation without Democrats even being present, which isn't true in Texas.
Now, so 7 of Indiana's 9 districts are pretty red. Could the state redraw the map to guarantee another Republican House seat? And then what would that do to already red districts?
So with the way that the technology around this has developed over the last kind of 2 decades, Indiana Republicans can absolutely redraw the state's congressional map to likely wipe out both of the Democrats who are currently in office. But there is some who believe that doing so would make some of the current Republican districts less solidly conservative, less red, and that potentially makes them a little more competitive.
So what would redistricting entail in Indiana?
So the governor could call a special session for lawmakers to redraw the maps, which would cost taxpayer dollars. For comparison, the 2-week special session in 2022 over abortion cost about $250,000. Lawmakers could also try to wait until they're back in their regular session in January, but they would have to pass that new map incredibly quickly because the filing deadline to run for those seats would be upon them.
So, maps are usually redrawn every 10 years after the census. We're halfway between censuses now. Are there legal challenges that could be made?
There will likely be legal challenges to any of the states that try to redraw their maps this year or in the middle of this cycle. Here in Indiana, they probably wouldn't be under state law because the state constitution stops lawmakers from redrawing the state legislative districts except for right after the census. But state law says that congressional maps must be drawn only during the first regular session of the General Assembly after a federal decennial census. But because it's only state law, Republicans can just as easily change that law as they can pass a new map.
Brandon, thank you so much for your coverage. Appreciate you being here today.
Thanks.
Indiana University's Board of Trustees is meeting today for an executive session that's only open to the trustees and invited participants. The meeting is closed to the public. Several participants, including Board Chair Quinn Buckner, declined to answer questions or say what their meeting was about as they walked into Bryan Hall Friday morning.
Can you tell us what this meeting is about?
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
On Wednesday, an IU spokesperson said the trustees were planning to discuss legal matters with an attorney, exempting the meeting from Indiana's open door laws. The board is dealing with a variety of challenges and legal cases over issues including the rollback of its DEI initiatives and its expressive activities policy. Well, we're joined now by Elise Perry for more headlines from around the state. Hello, Elise.
Hi, Joe. Monroe County Community School Corporation's 2025-26 school year officially began Wednesday with more than 10,000 students heading back to class. MCCSC's superintendent says she wants to focus on keeping students safe and on improving literacy and numeracy skills for students.
Academically, we want to make sure that our students are prepared, they're well prepared and ready for learning, and that we get an opportunity to maximize their learning skills.
School officials are adjusting after at least 60 health aide, food service, and custodial staff were eliminated last year due to state funding cuts. Winston says she's working with her HR team and school principals to fill some positions.
Figure out where do we need additional staff and looking at different ways of staffing. So we're feeling very optimistic, very positive, and we're going to continue to staff as appropriately as possible.
The Trump administration recently unfroze over $6 billion of educational funding. About $100 million was allocated for Indiana. Winston says that money will help support their extended day programs. 2 new Indiana University School of Medicine residency programs have gained accreditation to start training students next year. The programs, emergency and internal medicine, aim to address physician shortages in rural areas of the state. Recent data shows 71 of Indiana's 92 counties are considered health professional shortage areas. Students will be able to complete training in Bloomington as well as more rural areas like Paoli and Bedford.
We know there's data that shows that makes them much more likely to stay in Bloomington long-term for their careers.
She says the emergency medicine program will accept 6 students per class and internal medicine will accept 8 students per class. A statewide electric vehicle initiative announced locations for 36 new EV charging stations in Indiana this week. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Rebecca Thiel reports money for the chargers come from remaining funds in Indiana's settlement with Volkswagen over the car maker's air violations.
Half of the EV chargers will be at places like gas stations and shopping centers along major highways and can charge in as little as 20 minutes. The other half can take hours. Those will be at places like city buildings, parks, and attractions like the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the Children's Museum. The Trump administration paused a lot of federal funding for EVs, including $100 million for fast chargers along Indiana's interstates. Ryan Lissick is the program director for the nonprofit Drive Clean Indiana. Though it's slowed, he says electric vehicle adoption is still on the rise, and many manufacturers are still making EVs.
We also want to keep those EVs in the state. So that's really the big emphasis, is not to lose traction when outside issues are going on.
Lissick says he expects the chargers will be running by the end of next year. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Rebecca Thiel.
The Midwestern Regional Climate Center has launched the Ag Climate Dashboard, a centralized hub for climate and agricultural data for producers, advisors, and researchers. The dashboard uses tools developed by Purdue University as well as external sources. It provides historic and current weather data, climate prediction center outlooks, tools for monitoring crop growth and pest threats, and more.
We're taking all these publicly funded tools across the web and trying to put them in one place. And so that'll eliminate farmers from having to have 12 different products that are saved in their favorites.
Pearson says the idea for the dashboard stemmed directly from farmers. Indiana drivers now have a new option at the license branch, the state's first all-black license plate. Beginning today, the blackout plate will be available for all Hoosier drivers registering a passenger car, light truck, motorcycle, or RV. The blackout plate will carry an annual fee of $45. Drivers can swap to the blackout plate early for an additional $9.50. The Graduate Hotel on Kirkwood Avenue in Bloomington is now selling beer, wine, and canned cocktails. The announcement on Facebook came to a surprise to many as the hotel has been seeking an alcohol license for years. As Joe Wren reports, Indiana law doesn't allow establishments within 200 feet of a church or school to obtain liquor licenses.
Hotel officials tried a year ago to be recognized as part of a local historic district, but was unanimously voted down by the city's Preservation Commission. Hotel General Manager Andrew Harris says the hotel worked out a deal with First United Methodist Church.
Through a series of negotiations and that kind of thing, we were able to kind of make nice, and show our neighborly intent with the church next door, and finally they were able to sign off and say yes.
Pastor Lisa Schubert-Nowling says the church has been in conversations with the hotel for more than 6 years. She said both sides agreed not to disclose specifics of the partnership. For now, a pop-up bar is sectioned off in the main lobby. Harris says renovations to Poindexter Cafe off Kirkwood Avenue should be complete by IU Parents Weekend, September 20th.
We hope to see more weddings and that kind of thing, events that are hosted upstairs in our space, and then we hope to drive a lot of folks in.
Harris says hotels are not tied to the same quota limitations that some bars and restaurants have. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Joe Wren.
And Joe, as you know, service will shift from a walk-up counter model in the morning to restaurant server service by evening.
And they'll be really happy to have that running by football season, I'm sure. Thank you. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. The city of Bloomington is moving forward with action against Crawford Apartments, a permanent supportive housing complex. And state universities are working to eliminate or merge programs that don't meet the state's new degree requirements. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
Hello, I'm Todd Gould, Senior Producer Director at WTIU. I've personally devoted nearly 40 years of my life producing PBS arts and documentary films about important stories from Indiana. The arts, history, and people that make Hoosiers great. Despite government cutbacks, we will never stop telling Indiana's stories, your stories. Please donate now to keep this station strong. Become a sustaining monthly member at WTIU.org.
Asking tough questions to those in power.
There is this consensus that Democrats are somehow out of touch with the voters.
All of us have to do a better job of seeing the very real pain that exists across this country.
What did you make of the high degree of dysfunction within the Republican conference?
I always felt that it was broken.
And covering events as they unfold.
This continues to be a dangerous situation. Almost everyone is either evacuated or lost a home in this fire.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. The city of Bloomington is increasing its legal pressure on Crawford Apartments with a breach of contract lawsuit filed this week in Monroe Circuit Court. As Benta Boutier reports, Mayor Carrie Thompson's office says there must be accountability for Crawford, which prioritizes housing for people who have been homeless.
The lawsuit seeks to return hundreds of thousands of dollars that the city provided for the project. About a third of the 61 apartments on the south side of Bloomington were not up to code, the city said earlier this summer. WTIU obtained images and videos taken last year during code inspections that the city's case references. The lawsuit says Crawford's owners, its facility managers, and case manager, local nonprofit Beacon, failed repeatedly over 22 months to correct numerous violations. Despite acknowledging some improvements, the city said critical violations remain. In June, the city issued a formal notice of default to Crawford with a deadline of August 1st to correct violations.
I think that everybody has tried for a really long time to try and figure out how to solve the problem. But if we are not addressing the root cause, we will never reach compliance.
Mayor Carrie Thompson said her office can no longer separate Crawford's conditions from the presence or absence of supportive services. Beacon provides Crawford's residents with services like help getting medical care, obtaining ID cards, finding work, and mental health care. It issued a statement that the apartments have made incredible progress and it's disappointed with the city's decision to sue. WTIU visited the apartments to ask residents for their perspective. Several said they didn't want to lose their housing but declined to interview. Dakota Collins was across the street. He was evicted from the Crawford Apartments last year and stays at a camp now.
Things needed to be done around there, so I totally understand the city's standpoint on why they cracked down and everything. But at the same time, it's had a major impact on us that don't have any other options or resources.
The owner, Scenair Solutions, and the manager, Continental Management, did not return requests for comment. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Ben Taboutier.
Under pressure, Indiana's public colleges agreed to merge, cut, or suspend about 20% of their degree programs. Aubrey Wright reports on the transition colleges will make in the next year.
Fewer high schoolers are going to college, so the Commission for Higher Education came up with a plan to revamp hundreds of degrees.
Indiana's Commission for Higher Education is facing a tough reality.
Expedited actions. They are listed in your book.
Its research shows most Hoosiers want to go to college, but only about half of high schoolers enrolled. At a July meeting, Commissioner Chris Lowry says he's found one reason for that gap.
They lack that career coaching and navigation experience. They're not sure what to do.
The Commission and Indiana's leaders want to align higher education with the workforce. But Lowry says there's still another problem. The number of degree programs leaves students overwhelmed.
This degree program review process is an excellent complement to that, to helping students have clear choices and understanding what those are so that we can continue to drive better outcomes for students, employers, and Indiana.
Starting in July, state colleges and universities had to request approval to continue degrees that don't meet thresholds set by legislators. That would include 15 graduates for a bachelor's degree and 7 for a master's degree. More than 400 programs will be changed next year.
These are zero to low, very low enrollment and completion programs, but they're out there as choices today.
So what's next? 101 programs will be suspended and slowly fade out. 74 will be outright eliminated. Almost all of those programs had no students involved. 229 will be merged or consolidated. Merged degrees will be absorbed by an existing program, and consolidated degrees will combine to create a new one.
Suspended and merged consolidated programs will require an orderly teach-out, enabling the currently enrolled students to complete their original program of study, or they can transfer to the newly consolidated one, or they can change their majors entirely if they so choose.
Many of these programs also offer minors or concentrations, and Butler says those will probably stay. Some colleges, like Indiana University, made plans to give faculty more input this year.
And therefore, in this opportunity, they are committing, we will merge and consolidate, X, Y, and Z degrees down the line.
Colleges can continue some programs, even if they don't meet the minimum number of graduates. But that exception comes with more work. They need to prove to the Commission those degrees are valuable, stress workforce need, and show they lead to good careers. Affected students should be allowed to finish their degrees. Some colleges have already informed students of the changes.
They already know my degree is safe, it's been moved here, or etc.
And most Indiana college students are in unaffected programs. Butler says most of these changes will take full effect next year, unless a college decides it's part of a routine review.
Some of the routine staff actions or programs like the eliminations that could happen quickly, or suspensions that could happen quickly, yes, the institution will take it off their application process for next year.
Lowry says specific changes and cuts depend on the college, but he does believe there will be a closer connection to career advising and better organization.
But hopefully for the student, she or he is still going to be able to get a degree that then allows them to have expertise or some level of expertise.
The changes are designed to minimize effects on current students, but the effects for others are less clear. The Commission couldn't answer questions about the impacts on staffing. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Aubrey Wright.
And the Indiana football team is wrapping up its second week of practices in preparation for the season opener. In the preseason coaches poll released earlier this week, the Hoosiers were ranked 19th. They finished last season ranked 10th in both the coaches and AP polls. IU's coach says the Hoosiers are looking to build off that success, but it's a new season.
Every team, regardless of your record the year before, you got to start at ground zero in January. And we're very process-oriented, buy into the process, improve daily, no limitations on what you can accomplish.
IU is one of 7 Big Ten teams ranked in the top 25. That includes number 2 Ohio State and number 3 Penn State. The Hoosiers open against Old Dominion at Memorial Stadium in just 3 weeks. And that's the end of this program, but our work continues online as we cover the news throughout the week at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Maller Grotner Plummer Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Maller Grotner Plummer Attorneys, understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis, on the web at lawngp.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. Smithville, fiber internet, security solutions, and voice in southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Bunger and Robertson, attorneys at law since 1949, utilizing experience, knowledge, and resources to help individuals and families recover in personal injury matters. Information at lawbr.com. And by WTIU members. Thank you.